Now, hello, buddy. Welcome back to channel. We have today understanding partition politics. There was a large politics behind the partition, the memories of partition and experiences of partition. So, coming back to first question, what did the Muslim League demanded through its resolution of 1940? So, an important resolution was passed by Muslim League on 23rd of March 1940. This resolution was drafted by Sikandar Hayat Khan. Note this name, Sikandar Hayat Khan. He was the leader of Unionist Party and the Punjab Premier. Through this, the Muslim League demanded the autonomy of the Muslim majority areas of the subcontinent. But in the resolution, there was no mention either the partition of the country or the creation of Pakistan. So it is a time of 1940, and Sikandar Hayat Khan was opposed to the idea of formation of Pakistan. He opposed the idea of formation of Pakistan. He opened of a loose federation with a lot of autonomy to the state. So they were, you can think, very selfish man. Going to the second question, why did some people think that partition as a very sudden development? And it was very sudden. So some people think that the partition of India in 1947 was a very sudden development. Many Muslim leaders were not serious in their demands for Pakistan as a separate nation, and it was only based on the religious matter. On many occasions, Jinnah used the idea of Pakistan to seek favor from the British and to block concession into the Congress. Even the Muslims were confused about the idea of Pakistan. They would not think of the future in the independent country like Pakistan. Many people migrated to the new country with the hope that they would soon come back to India as soon as the situation improved. In fact, the partition was so sudden that nobody could imagine it. It was so sudden. Think you were in that time and you are just asked to choose this country or that, and you are a Muslim, so the condition will become and you will fail then. Now, going to the third question, how did ordinary people view partition? Or this question can be also said that describe the harrowing experience of the ordinary people during the period of partition of India. So for ordinary people, partition was full of challenges. It brought sufferings. The division was not a territorial division for them, it was also a party politics of Congress and Muslim League. And I too consider the partition of India was because of the party politics of Congress and the Muslim League and Jinnah. But for the ordinary people, partition was a challenge for them. It brought misery and troubles to them. It meant death to their loved ones, lot of poverty and wealth. Partition also uprooted them from their paternal lands, what were the land of their fathers that gone, and they were also forced to start their life once again from a new platform, new country. For the ordinary people, partition was not a pleasant experience, but it was very painful. A lot of deaths were occurred intentionally, and the direct action plan offered by Jinda was very sad incident of this South Asian region, and it was full of suffering. Going to the fourth question, what was the Mahatma Gandhi's argument against partition? I think the most important man I will remember always is the Mr. Gandhi. He at the end time opposes partition, but the selfish man of the Congress and the selfish Jinnah and the selfish Muslim League, they partition this country. So coming back to the answer, Mahatma Gandhi was in favor of unity among various communities of the country. He was also saying that let give the autonomy to the Muslim League, make the country united. Mr. Gandhi, I miss him very much. He was such a great leader, and he was firm supporter of religious harmony. He never supported the idea of partition. He did not want the separation of Muslims from the Hindus who did not live together for centuries. In his view, partition was wrong. Mahatma Gandhi was ready to sacrifice his life for the individual India, but Mahatma Gandhi was not ready to accept the partition. In this view, Islam stood for unity and brotherhood for mankind and not for separation. These were the arguments by Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi said that the demand of Pakistan by the Muslim League is itself un-Islamic and sinful. In Mahatma Gandhi view, those who favor the partition are enemies of both Islam and India. Mahatma Gandhi opened the Hindu and the Muslim. He suggested that this land belonged to both Hindus and Muslims. It is not that this east or west part where Bangladesh and the parties Pakistan formed is of Muslim and the India is for Hindus only. It is a shared land. They drank the same water, they speak the same language. At that time, Hindustani was spoken, and they live in peace and harmony. So he appealed to the Muslims League not to demand for separate nation. Such a such an important leader he was. Why is partition viewed as an extremely significant maker in South Asian history? It is really a remarkable moment. So coming back to answer, the partition of India had a unique nature. The partition was based on religion. The partition took place in the name of communities. History has never witnessed such type of partition. It was the first time in the entire history that the religious partition took place. The partition marked a severe violence. Innumerable people were killed. The direct action planned was made responsible by the Jinnah. People began to kill each other irrespective of their earlier relations. Earlier, they lived with each other with harmony and peace, but now started to kill each other. Government machinery failed to check this, and many people, a lot of problems faced a lot of problems. Their life became miserable. They near and dear ones were killed. Many people were abducted. People moved across the border. Most of the Muslims of India crossed over the Pakistan, and almost all the Hindus and Sikhs come to India from Pakistan. Those who could not come back are still killed by the Pakistani people in the Pakistan, and they were forced to start their fresh lives. People lost all the movables and immovable property. All of a sudden, they become homeless and forced to live in refugee camps. Now, going to the sixth question, why was British India partitioned? So, I think they are the creator of every problem across the world. So I think several factors can be contributed for the partition of British India. Some of they are discussed. First, role of communal parties and organization. At that time, our situations were like this. Our, you can say the हमारी परिस्थितियाँ ही ऐसी थी. Several historians and scholars think that the main purpose of the foundation of Muslim League was to serve the interest of the Muslims. In retaliation, the Hindu Mahasabha was formed. The Muslim League was demanding more and more political rights for the Muslims in retaliation of some of the and Congress was secular at that time. Also, the Muslim League was demanding more and more political rights. In retaliation, some of the Hindus took steps and stabilized Hindu Mahasabha in the year 1915. Hindu Sabha also demanded more political rights and representation of Hindus in the different government organizations. Following in the footsteps, the Sikh League was also formed. Akali Dal put forward demands of their people. Directly or indirectly, these political parties helped the separations. They created feeling of separations and isolations among different communities. So I think the separation occurred was good in a way that the people were selfless at that time, and they all wanted the goods and the resources for themselves. And in their, I think, mind, in the minds, they were separated. They were not like brotherhood. So there was no meaning of living in a united India. So let's say that what happened was not bad, but it was very bad. British policy. In India, British followed the policy of divide and rule. In India, before the arrival of the British, Hindus and Muslims lived happily. There was unity, mutual cooperation, and brotherhood among them. But the British did not like this. They sowed the seed of dissensions and followed the policy of divide and rule. Most of the historians believe that the policy of divide and rule was the main reason of partition. It was also a factor. The British historian, journalist, and writer propagated through their writings that Muslims invaders made the Hindus enslaved, and they had been exploited for centuries. The British government also encouraged partition. British government encouraged the Muslim League to demand for a separate state. They tried to disrupt the movement of independence by playing the game of imperialism. And there was role of our leaders too. Role of leaders was also responsible for the partition and the leadership of Mr. Jinnah. The Muslim League moved to a resolution of Lahore demanding a measure of autonomy of the Muslim majority area. After the new nation called Pakistan, the great poet Muhammad Iqbal also spoke about the need for a Muslim state in northwest India as early in 1930. Now, what for the movement? What were the experience of partition? So, just reading the answer. For women, partition was horrible. Women were raped, abducted, and many times forced to live with strangers and start a new life. They were deeply traumatized and began to develop new family bonds in the changed circumstances. Women became victims on both sides of the border. They were forced to live in strange circumstances. But the government officials of both the countries did not take any serious step to consult those women. Women were left on their fate. They were even murdered by their own family members when the men realized that the women of their family would fall in the hands of the enemy. They killed their women with their own hands to escape from the hands of enemy. In a Sikh village, 90 women were said to have voluntarily jumped into the well. So Now, electricity just passed from my mind to the food. What was horrific incident that was. Now, question 8: how did the Congress came to change its view on partition? So first, Congress was opposing, but the surface leaders of that time. So reading the answer only. Initially, Indian National Congress was not in favor of Pakistan, but in March 1947, the Congress High Command agreed to Punjab into two parts. One part would consist of the Muslim majority area, and other part would consist of the areas having Hindu Sikh majority. To most of the Sikh leaders and Congress leader, partition of Punjab wasn't necessarily evil. Look here, the word necessary evil is used. The Sikh feared that their denial of the partition of Punjab may lead them to empower, overpowered by the Muslims. They would be under control of Muslims. So Sikh of the Indian side Punjab think that if the partition is not happened, then they will be in the control of Muslims. Situation was same in the Bengal. The Badarluk Bengali Hindus of Bengal wanted to retain political power with them. They were also apprehensive of the Muslims. In Bengal, the Hindus were in minority, so they favored the partition. They thought that partition would help them to retain political dominance. So it was a game of just having in their hands the game of political dominance. These reasons forced the Congress to change their view of partition. So now going to ninth question: examine the strength and limitations of oral history. How have oral history techniques further our understanding of partition? So to the last question. The oral history techniques helps historian to write experience of people during the time of partition. In fact, history of partition has been reconstructed with the help of oral narratives. It is not possible to extract some kinds of information from government records. Government would not provide certain information which paint them in bad color. Government should provide, but they are not providing. They will never provide. Moreover, its government does not tell about the daily developments of the events during the partition. Moreover, government was involved in the negotiation. Documents of government deal with policy matters, and that document throw lights on efforts of major political parties. But in the oral history tells us the day-to-day account. It is told by the people who have actually gone through the trauma and pains of the partition. But the oral data is not free from limitations. Oral data lack concrete details. It does not have the chronological order. Oral ornaments. Oral accounts are concerned with tangential issues and that small individual experiences are irrelevant to the one unfolding the larger canvas of history. In oral history, people may not talk their personal aspects. They can hide even their fault or fault of their community as a whole. Many people may not remember all events. People tend to forget also. Accuracy of narration can also be questioned. So this was the end of NCRT textbook questions of understanding partisan politics, memories. So signing off.